With this week's devotion. Not quite midweek, we're gathering on Tuesdays because on Wednesdays at noon we have our live stream of Lenten devotions, our Lenten lunches, gathering with other local churches to meet for a time of fellowship and learning. So you're invited to tune in at about 12:30 for the live stream of that, or gather at noon here at the church. But let's get into our devotion. It doesn't feel good to realize you can't change things. Like when your kid has yacked 4 times in the past hour, when all those sprained ankles as a youth come back to haunt you in the forms of snap, crackle, and pops when you get out of bed in the morning, when there's a distance, and I'm not talking about all the miles, between you and your childhood best friend, and you don't have a clue why. You want to make her feel better, and the medicine seems to help, but then she starts sneezing out green stuff. You wish you could go back and tell yourself to wear ankle braces when you played basketball, but time doesn't work that way. You reach out again and again and again, but it doesn't seem to make a difference. It's not a lesson that needs to be any part of curriculum like in school or at church, because it's one we all learn by experience. As much as we like being in control, life has a way of reminding us we are not, or at least not as much as we'd like to be. There are some things we just can't make happen, some things we just can't force, some things we just can't create. And this can make us feel like failures. We're told by the world we're the masters of our own destiny, that we can do anything we set our minds to, that we can just have it if we want it enough, and then it will manifest. So when we don't get what we want, when the kid is still sick, or the body is still breaking, or the friendship shrivels beyond recognition, it can feel debilitating. Some resort to anger, while others melancholy, but the reaction is hardly ever positive. But you aren't a failure, at least no more so than any other person on the face of the earth. You're just human, not God. And ultimately, that God is God and we are not is good news for 2 reasons. We are freed from the responsibility to do everything because we can't. It's number 1. But more importantly, where we can't make things happen, God can. This is the thrust of our faith, its thesis, its essence. God can make a way where there is no way. Nothing is impossible for God. God creates something out of nothing. Paul describes our God in his letter to the Romans as the God who gives life to the dead and calls things that don't exist into existence. Those places where you're bumping up against your limits and maybe trying unsuccessfully to push and shove and force your way through, it's time to let them be failures. To admit they're out of your control. And that's what Lent is for, this season that we're in, getting ready for Easter, being honest about our humanity. And by the time we get to Easter, we'll be ready to hear again the story of Jesus' resurrection that did the impossible. Life from death, victory from pain, hope from suffering. If God can do that, think of what God can do in your life and indeed, the world. Thanks for joining me for this week's devotion. I hope you heard a word of grace. Please like and share this with someone who you think needs to hear this good news. Join us for Lenten lunches tomorrow or for worship on Sunday. But if not, our benediction's the same as always. God be with you till we meet again.